Hi guys, it's Crystal of Dreamline Design Patterns, and I'm back with another segment of Adobe Illustrator Basics. Last segment we talked about creating a document, setting it up for making your patterns, and setting up your print guides. This segment we're going to talk about layers and artboards. I know it doesn't seem like a lot to talk about, but there's a lot to learn in this program. It's not scary. It looks like there's a lot, but it's really easy to learn. It just takes a bit of time, so I'm trying to keep the videos on the shorter side, so we're just going to talk about layers and artboards during this video. Okay, so last video we made this guides layer here, and we locked it. So I'm going to go ahead and come down here and click create a new layer. I don't use this create new sublayer, I just don't. And here's your trash can. If you need to delete one, you can click it and delete it, or you can just drag it to the trash can. But we're going to create a layer. And if you don't see this panel here, you can come up here to Window and click Stroke, Layers, Color, and Control. And you should see it because this is the basic Adobe Illustrator default interface. I've added a few menus here because I use Illustrator for various things outside of cloth pad patterns, so I just keep my most used things where I can get to them easily. But you should have this panel already as default. But like I said, if not, you can go to Window and pull it up. Okay, so to the layers panel over here. This will show you all the layers you have open in your current document. Right now we have guides in layer 2. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the eyeball here. If you have it clicked, you can see the layer. If you unclick it, it hides the layer. This is useful because you may not want to accidentally move something. It does almost the same thing as locking it. You can't see it, you can't move it. You're not gonna mess anything up on that layer. It's also useful if you need to focus on one layer, like you're doing intricate work and other layers are getting in the way and you just want to focus on the one layer. If you click it, like I said, it comes back. Now we're going to talk about locked layers. The next little square here allows you to click and lock. If you lock a layer, it can't be selected, it can't be drawn on. Well, we're on the wrong layer here. It can't be drawn on, it can't be selected. Nothing is going to happen to that layer. So if you need, I always lock my guide layer here so that when I'm moving my pattern around, I don't accidentally move this around. But you can do that for any layer. And I do recommend working in layers. It's not required unless you're doing a pattern that you want to have Adobe Illustrator or you want to have Adobe PDF layers. If you don't, it's not absolutely necessary, but I still recommend it because it makes working and finding what you're looking for so much easier. It also gives you the ability to lock whatever you're not using so that you don't accidentally move it, because believe me, it happens. So I do recommend not only working in layers, but naming your layers, whatever you want to name them. And you can do that by double clicking, and it'll either pull this up or you can just double click. If you already have it selected, like say that we selected layer 2 and we double clicked, it'll either pull up that or it'll pull up the layers menu, and you can do it that way. Either way is fine. The little arrows here expand the layer. It shows you everything that is inside the layer. And you can lock individual pieces. You don't have to lock the entire layer. If you want to just lock the rectangle, you can do that. And then you can select and move the line. If you want to just lock the line, you can, and then you can select and move the square. But for the sake of the layer that it is, I'm just going to lock the whole thing because I don't want it moving. And then the little circles here allow you to select the layer as long as it's not locked. If it's locked, it's not going to select. See? So you can select a layer. It selects the entire layer. Same thing here, but we don't have anything on layer 2 at the moment. So the same thing applies for when you expand the layer. You can select just the rectangle or just the line. If you want to get rid of something inside the layer, you can also drag it down to the trash can, or click it and click the trash can. And let's go ahead and put something on layer 2 so I can show you something. You see the colors here? Each layer is color coded. This layer has a color code of red, so everything has this little red outline when you select it. Whereas if we select the layer 1, it's blue because it has blue right here. That's another way you can tell which layer you're on. So that is pretty much it for layers. You can also create a new layer by going to this little menu here and go to new layer. That's pretty much all you need there. Now we're going to talk about artboards. And artboards are your canvases. The white area here, anything outside of here will not print. And so you want to have everything you want printed or on this white layer, your canvas. And there's a little bit more to that when you go to save it. You want to make sure you have save and artboards clicked, but we'll get into that later. So let's say, I'm sorry guys, my throat's bothering me. Let's say that you only have one artboard and you thought you could fit it all on one artboard, but you just can't. And you need another artboard. Well, what do now that you already have the document set up? It's not a problem. You can come right down here, just like on the layers panel, and click new artboard. Now the artboard might not always go where you want it. So you're going to go over here to the artboard tool, click that, and we're going to click this and drag it down here where it overlaps 1 inch, just like we would have when we set the document up. And then we're going to click the selection tool, and that's it. But what happens if you have artwork here? Like, let's say your pattern comes to the edge here where it overlaps. Now, a lot of times when you click on the artboard thing, it's going to have this button clicked, move or copy artwork with artboard. You do not want that clicked, because you see how it's taking that line with it. Well, what if that's your pattern? It also took our guideline with it. So we're going to undo that, and if that happens to you, just come up here and unclick that, okay? Then you can get rid of it, and then you can move it without moving everything else with it. Okay? So that's how that works. And then you click the selection tool to get out of it. Make sure you do that, because I have forgotten that I had artboard selected and couldn't figure out why it wasn't going the way it was supposed to be. You can also, if you want, for whatever reason, this is not really for cloth pads. This is just some other info on artboards. You can create your own custom artboards by just going to the artboard tool and clicking and dragging. But I do recommend just going to new artboard, because that's going to give you one the exact size you need, letter size, 8.5 by 11 inch. You can rename your artboards if you'd like to. I don't really have any reason to do that, but you can. So I think that pretty much covered everything on the layers and artboards. So that's it for this segment, and I will see you guys again soon.